Crime you also covered today, Colette. Mary Lynn Villalpando murdered in the late 80s. Her family getting some justice today after all those years, and you say you could feel the emotion packed into that courtroom, huh?
The family had to sit tearfully through testimony regarding the awful, awful details of their loved one's murder. Her killer at the time was only 15 years old. The judge wrestled with how to sentence the now 40-year-old man in front of her. Ultimately, she gave him the maximum sentence in this plea deal, 60 years in prison. She looked at him and said she would have sentenced that 15-year-old boy the exact same way. There's some scars.
32 years, 11 months to the date.
No time can erase.
I never really gave up hope completely, but it has been a long time, and I'm so glad that the day has come.
Mary Lynn Villalpando, a 24-year-old mother, daughter, wife, and friend. Nicknamed by one of her brothers, Mary Grin.
I went out to the scene. I was the on-call deputy back in 1988. A Sunday morning, I remember very vividly being out there.
A life cut short decades ago in an alley in old Colorado City.
There wasn't almost any part of her body that wasn't injured, literally from head to toe. And she put up a heck of a fight.
Former District Attorney Dan May has handled countless cases, but says this was the worst crime scene he's ever been to.
Only somebody entirely disturbed and devoid of any moral compass or compunctions could possibly do this.
Then in 2018, a major DNA break in the case led investigators to James Papel, who was 15 years old when he killed and raped Villalpando.
It's a crime against dignity and a crime against the person. And so it wasn't just taking her life, it was completely taking her dignity from her too.
And at his sentencing, Villalpando's older sister, Cynthia, read an emotional statement to the court.
It was like the last thing I could do for my sister.
And learned details about her sister's death she never wanted to know.
Hate takes passion and energy, and I just don't want to waste my passion and energy on him. So I'm doing it for myself. I'm not doing it for him.
But there'll never be closure in this case because her sister can't be brought back. When sentencing Papel, the judge said this was unlike any other case she has ever presided over. Now, she did look at him and tell him that she doesn't believe he's ever taken any accountability for this murder. Instead, lying to investigators when they found him in 2018 at a state hospital. Always watching out for you, Colorado Springs. Colette Bordelon on News 5.
Happening in our crime. Watch tonight and closer to home here in southern Colorado, accused murderer Letitia.
Sorry guys, I was muted. I'm sorry about that. Like I said, I'm still getting accustomed to my day and trying to get back into the swing of things. I'm really sorry I was muted, but this next clip we're going to be watching is Letitia Stout will receive new counsel, will no longer represent herself, and that's going to be courtesy of KOAA 55, I believe. Go ahead and push play now.
Letitia Stout will have in our crime watch tonight and closer to home here in southern Colorado, accused murderer Letitia Stout will have lawyers on her side of the courtroom again after around 2 months where she chose to represent herself. She's the woman accused of killing her 11-year-old stepson Gannon in January of last year. Our Colette Bordelon live for us tonight at the courthouse. Colette, you've sat through hearing after hearing when Stout acted as her own counsel, where she basically said no one but her could give this case the time it deserves. What happened?
She was really confident in deciding to push for this move for self-representation, telling the judge many times this is how she wanted to proceed, saying she had an ace in the hole or 2 pieces of evidence that would clear her name. But it's not unusual for pro se defendants to go back on their decision and decide they want some legal counsel instead. Now, the judge has appointed her the original team of public defenders she had before the choice to represent herself. But in a letter she wrote to the court, she asked her counsel not be from the Office of Public Defenders, but a state-appointed attorney, really just a different version of a public defender. A judge found there is a conflict in the case and ruled Stout will get brand new counsel. Regardless, her preliminary hearings that were set for the end of May have now been pushed back to August.
She should be given the same presumption. She is innocent until proven guilty. And everybody that's charged with a crime does have the right to due process. And that's what this is all about. This is all part of due process. And it's important that we protect that for every defendant.
Allen says while he's always known this case would take a while, more delays may depend on who is given her case next week. For instance, if it's the person who was her advisory counsel while she represented herself, that might move a little bit more quickly. Now, we'll know who's going to represent Stout next week. She's got an an appearance of counsel coming up on Monday afternoon. Of course, I'll be there to be following up on this story.
But Colette, if she's getting new attorneys, would that change the days the judge picked for her preliminary hearing, those August dates, just based on her prior public defenders, right?
Yeah, that's right, Rob. So those August time frames, that was picked by those 2 public defenders who Letitia Stout no longer wants on her team. So depending on who is appointed to this case, that time frame could change. It could move for preliminary hearings, which is when witnesses are called and evidence is presented.
I really wish I knew what she thought was going to be her quote-unquote ace in the hole in her case. She was using library time to get her case together, so obviously, I mean, she obviously doesn't know the law, right? But in either way, if she has this undeniable proof that she didn't do it, why wouldn't she let a lawyer represent her and speak for her? And I mean, I guess this could have a lot to do with her ego, her personality. Maybe she really just is full of herself and obviously full of shit. Because in my heart, I believe she did murder Gannon. And that's just from a feeling I get from reading, the articles and watching the news clips about this story. It's just pretty wild that Gannon was missing, and the story changed from he went to a friend's house, I think, then it went to he ran away, and then before you knew it, she took off too. I think they found her in a different state. So all that stuff to me is not proof, but it just gives, anybody reason to believe that she did do it, because that's not how I think an innocent person would act. So we'll go ahead and, keep an eye on any updates for this case, because I am interested in seeing it through and finding out what ends up happening. So let's go ahead and look at this next clip. It's called Deputy Fired, and that's going to be courtesy of PAHomepage.com.
A Susquehanna County Sheriff's deputy is now facing charges and lost her job after investigators say that she put glue in a co-worker's bottle of water as a prank. Police say Deputy Sheriff Catherine Stanziali admitted to putting the glue in the water bottle back on April Fool's Day. A co-worker's lips were glued shut and had a difficult time separating them. Stanziali is facing several charges, including harassment and simple assault. She was fired on April 12th.
So here we have a police officer that essentially attempted to poison her coworker. They went ahead and in my opinion, gave her an out by allowing her to say that it was an April Fool's prank. I think there's more to it. You don't do that to somebody that you genuinely like or care about at all. I'm feeling that perhaps there was some kind of animosity, which of course we won't be hearing that from the news. It's pretty wild to let her just, you know, get away with it pretty much, because to me that's like you're trying to poison somebody. If she would have continued to do that, who knows what kind of long-term damage that could have caused to the person. But I mean, we'll never know, because at least she was caught. And then she did it as an April Fool's joke, so that means that happened on April 1st, and then nothing happened for 12 days until she got fired on the 12th. So again, cops are every day proving that they can't be trusted, and here we have another kind of like if World's Dumbest Cops was a segment, she would be headlining today's front page. Okay, so I did find a couple of animal videos that I wanted to go ahead and watch. This one's called Mama Fox Kits Play in Westminster Driveway, and this is going to be courtesy of 9 News. And I don't know if that was supposed to say like kids, or I don't know if maybe baby foxes are, you know, technically called kits. I'm not too sure about that. Maybe it could have been a typo. And that's going to be courtesy of 9 News after the ad. So it sounds like there's a cat inside the house, but look at these little babies. They're playing. There's like 4 of them. They're jumping around so cute. And then right now you're going to see the mama fox, and you could tell she's just not having it. Trying to wrangle up her babies. Look at how the little one gallops. He's so cute. Oh my god, they ran each other over. Super cute. Little babies. I love animals. Hey Adam Brazil, how you doing? I'm watching Fox videos. Well, just one. Anyways, yeah, they're super cute. Yeah, I'm smiling. Alright. Let's go ahead and continue on. How's it going, Adam? Hope you're doing good. Let's continue on, and this next clip is called Family Angered as Man Arrested for Deadly Boating Hit and Run is Released from Jail. And this is going to be courtesy of WPLG Local 10. And that's going to be after this ad. 1 second.
We begin with a distraught family seeking justice after a tragedy on the water.
A beloved father dying after being struck by a boat, and the man who police say was responsible for this hit and run is now out of jail. Local 10's Roy Ramos is live in Miami with the exclusive. Roy.
Nicole and Calvin, this family is just devastated by all of this, and they say while the man accused of killing their loved one has been arrested, the loss has destroyed their family.
They took away my life, they took away my comfort, my support.
Now, I did watch this clip earlier, and unfortunately it is going to be emotional, and that's why I have my viewer discretion is advised. This is serious and emotional information, so for anybody that, I don't like using the word triggered, but you know what I mean. If this isn't for you, you know, you could always take a break and then come back, because I have different types of stories that I do cover, but this is going to be on the more serious and emotional side, so I just wanted to give you all a little bit of a warning.
My best friend.
You could feel the pain in the voice of Melanie Garcia as she struggles to comprehend she will never see her husband and father of their 2 young children again.
Now I have to be mom and dad to both of my kids.
The family of 26-year-old Alcides Andres Yaguez in mourning after investigators with FWC said he was hit and killed by a boater while on a personal watercraft near the Rickenbacker Causeway Saturday. The alleged driver, 50-year-old George Rodriguez Del Rey, with 9 passengers aboard that boat, never stopping, driving off, and leaving Yaguez for dead.
He wasn't trash. You know, he was a good person. He didn't deserve that.
3 days after that fatal crash, police say it was a passenger on that boat who witnessed the accident that told investigators Rodriguez Del Rey was the driver behind the wheel. While he is now facing a charge of leaving the scene of a fatal crash, it is the victim's family left wondering if the driver would have stopped. Would the father, husband, son, brother with 3 sisters be here today? This mother's message to the man who left her son to die.
Señor, no sé cómo usted le dio y se fue a la fuga.
Sir, I don't know how you could have hit him and fled. Maybe he was going to die, but maybe, just maybe, if you had stopped, I could have had a second to say, God bless you, son. Go with God.
And that suspect has since bonded out of the Miami-Dade County Jail. We did reach out to his attorney. We are still waiting to hear back. As for this investigation, well, it continues. So if you have any information that can help those detectives, you are urged to give Miami-Dade Crime Stoppers a call. That number, 305-471-TIP.
So he bonded out, and that happens. The way it was worded, it said released from jail, so it had left questions as to if he bonded out or if he was cleared of all the charges, but it looks like he bonded out, so he's still gonna have court, and he has not officially gotten away with it or anything like that. But I will keep an eye out for any updates regarding that situation if I see them. We're gonna go ahead and move on, and the next clip is called Must Watch: Tesla Cameras Capture Shocking Crash on I-77 in Charlotte, and that's gonna be courtesy of WCNC.
He knows.
And that's going to be after this ad. 1 second.
WCNC Charlotte's Brianna Harper spoke to a man who was driving just feet away when this wreck happened and shares his word of caution for others.
This might be hard to believe, but a new study shows less traffic but more deadly crashes within the last year. And the video of that crash here on I-77 that you saw, certainly a near-death experience, but also potentially a safety teaching moment for other drivers too. A drive down I-77 South late Monday morning just before the 277 interchange. Driver Ben O'Mara says he noticed traffic start to slow down, but then
saw behind him there was a car coming up way too fast, obviously.
The cameras on his Tesla catching this crash in action.
That whole passenger side was from shoulders up, crushed in.
O'Mara says he quickly sped up to avoid being hit as well and continued on to prevent a possible pileup crash. Later, he reviewed this video in shock.
I didn't realize how bad it was until looking back at the footage afterward, or else I would have stopped, knowing that that car went underneath. You see the tractor trailer here. And
personal injury law firm James Scott Farron typically handles car wrecks like this, but in the past year, they've seen less traffic, less accidents, but unfortunately, more deadly crashes.
Fatalities actually increased by about 11% in North Carolina.
And we're told that deadly increase is a similar trend nationwide. Experts say multiple factors are to blame, like less traffic stops by law enforcement due to COVID safety concerns, and as a result, more speeding and less people wearing seatbelts.
We expect that there will be more car wrecks, especially this summer. Now that a lot of people are feeling safer to get out in the world.
The best advice: exercise caution and keep defensive driving top of mind.
I see things like this all the time. It never happens so close to me, thankfully.
And we are still waiting to hear back from North Carolina State Highway Patrol to find out more about the extent of injuries in that crash and what charges the driver might face.
Yeah, that's pretty crazy. Usually it's Tesla cars that are, on auto, whatever it is, and that are driving like that. It's not the Tesla that captures, other cars crashing. But yeah, I have questions, was drinking and driving a problem here? Was somebody distracted? Did somebody fall asleep? So I have a lot of questions about that. If I see any updates, I will be sure to add them to a feature playlist. So let's go ahead and continue, unless, somebody wants to ask me about something. I definitely don't mind answering questions. I normally just like to play videos, and I'll let them play, let people just watch them, and I'll make a comment if I'm moved to do so. So yeah, this is pretty much what what I get up to here on YouTube. So let's continue. The next one is called Scammers Getting Creative with Robocalls, and this is going to be courtesy of KTVN Channel 2, I believe. Let's take a look.
Well, unfortunately, scammers are getting more creative with scam calls. I hear from some of you on your 2 cents who receive these calls daily, and the Better Business Bureau says that in 2020, 46,575 scams were reported. As Valentina Bonaparte reports, there are steps you can take to avoid falling victim.
Department of Social Security Administration.
The calls are scary, ask for immediate action, and happen every day. In fact, according to UMail, residents of the Silver State received an average of 244 robocalls per person in 2020.
Weeks ago, I got a scam over the weekend from Amazon letting me know that I won second place in this giveaway, and I had this great prize coming my way. All I needed to do was fill out some forms. They needed me to click on a link, and really that's where they get you.
And if someone at the BBB gets these calls, anyone could be receiving them.
It's really easy.
Yeah, I don't answer those ever. In fact, I want to say maybe only 2-3 people, like maybe 3 or 4 people have my number in real life. So if their name and number doesn't pop up on my screen, I just don't answer it.
Easy for scammers to tweak those numbers and make it seem like it's coming from somebody and somebody that they're not.
Johnston is one of many who.
This is the one I get a lot too, where it'll say, I think one time it said that that I had a package at USPS or whatever, and I needed to hit the link and let them know that I was on my way for it or some shit like that, and I never ever hit the link on those. That shit looks suspect as fuck.
Who didn't and shouldn't be clicking on those links.
They said that if you didn't respond, then they would take that amount of money out of your checking account or however you're paying your bill to Amazon.
According to BBB, scams using online payments have spiked, and close to 1 in 2 reports noted financial loss. The best things you can do to prevent fraud include know who you are buying from. Gift cards are meant to be a gift, not payments. Never share personal information with someone who has contacted you unsolicited. Covering the story, Valentina Bonaparte, 2 News.
And it's not just people. The BBB also says pet scams spiked during the pandemic.
They better leave my pet alone. I don't want my pet getting scammed. Alright, well, I'll be looking out for that. Alright, let's continue on. Now, this case is not new. Let me do a little bit of research so that I can give people an idea of what we're talking about here. This happened close to my old hometown in California, and it's an update on the Scott Peterson trial. And let's see. So the date he was apprehended was in 2003, and let me see if I can get any more dates here. And in 2004, Scott Peterson was convicted and later sentenced to death for killing his pregnant wife Lacey and dumping her body in the San Francisco Bay. But now there's a new twist to the story, so let's take a look at this update and see where we're at. It's called Scott Peterson's sister-in-law says she has evidence that exonerates him. Funny how after all these years now there's evidence. So let's take a look, and this is going to be courtesy of CBS Sacramento. And that's going to be after this ad. 1 second, please.
It's unsettling. There is no explanation. There's no when, there's no where, there's no how. There's no time for him to do what he's convicted of doing.
A push for a new trial with claims of new evidence nearly 20 years after Scott Peterson was convicted of killing his pregnant wife and unborn son. The Modesto man was back in court this week to appeal his murder convictions and death sentence.
And tonight, his sister-in-law says she has evidence that exonerates him. CBS 13's Adrian Moore joins us with an interview you'll see only on CBS 13. Adrian.
Elizabeth and Tony, Janie Peterson says Modesto police ignored a handful of tips and leads in this case, including a burglary across the street from Scott and Lacey's home.
There is no series of circumstances that fits the evidence where he could possibly have done it.
Another surprising twist in a case that has captivated the country for nearly 2 decades.
This board behind me is the events of the day that he allegedly murdered his wife.
Janie Peterson is the sister-in-law of convicted killer Scott Peterson. Over the years, she's become an amateur sleuth, creating a war room of sorts, full of clues, she says, that point to Scott's innocence.
The justice system has failed here, and it started with the Modesto Police Department, and it started with the fact that they didn't follow up on evidence that showed Laci was alive the morning of December 24th.
Part of that evidence, she says, neighbors who saw his pregnant wife Laci the morning she vanished, and a burglary across the street from the couple's Modesto home.
There was an anonymous tip that came in that named 5 people being involved in the burglary. Only 2 of those people were arrested and questioned.
Her theory? Laci saw the crime in action, approached the burglars, and was kidnapped and killed.
A Lieutenant Aponte that worked.
And it's just a big fat coincidence that Scott was having an affair and moving towards like committing with, I think her name was Amber. And it's just a big fat coincidence that, you know, Scott Peterson was so innocent that he bleached his hair blonde, grew a goatee, I think, and then when he was apprehended, he was on his way to Mexico with a bunch of money. I don't know about you all, but that's not the behavior of an innocent person. Now, I guess somebody could argue that maybe he just didn't have faith in the justice system and that's what he was running away from. But again, my feelings are that he did it.
Worked at Norco Prison in California, called the Modesto police in January and said that they had an inmate at their prison who was overheard discussing exactly that Laci had confronted the burglars at the Medina home.
It's information the original jury didn't hear. Information Janie and Scott's defense team believe could be a game changer as they push for a new trial.
It's been a long road. It's been a difficult road.
While prosecutors say the timeline doesn't make sense, police have said the burglary happened 2 days after Laci disappeared. Still, new questions in an old case that continues to capture headlines.
So far, authorities have not commented on Janie Peterson's claims. Now, you may remember Scott Peterson's death sentence was overturned last summer, meaning he will get a new sentencing trial. 2 hearings in this case are set for June.
All right, so let's go ahead and look at the next clip. And this is going to be another cold case. And it's from 1980, and the clip is called Kern County Jane Doe 1980 Identified Kern County Sheriff's Office, and this is going to be courtesy of KGET News.
She was the victim of a homicide. She really looked like somebody someone would miss.
Regardless of whether or not you know the identity of the victims, they were still victims.
Everybody deserves to have their name returned to them. It was like boom, boom, boom. It was like a domino effect.
I'm Sheriff Coroner Donnie Youngblood. This is a story about Jane Doe number 5. This is a story about a 39-year-old cold case. This is a story about technology, perseverance, and collaboration. This is a story about murder, but not forgotten.
Today, I really want to introduce you to Shirley Ann Souza, better known to us as Jane Doe number 5, 1980. Jane Doe came to us on July 14th, 1980. She was the victim of a homicide. She was located in an orchard just off Highway 99 in Delano, just north of Bakersfield. When I looked at the crime scene photos, she really looked like somebody someone would miss. She was neat and clean in appearance. She was dressed as though she were going out somewhere. But what I really noticed is that she had white kid-style tennis shoes. She came back to the coroner's office and she had an exam. We completed fingerprints. We didn't find anything about her family. Sheriff's detectives completed their investigation, and over the years, we had not a single inquiry about her, and the case grew cold. In 2008, that was really our first big lead, and that was when we were contacted by Department of Justice indicating that they had gotten a hit off of the specimens sent to them at the time of the exam in 1980. It came back linking her to Wilson Chuzette. A composite drawing was done of what Jane Doe looked like. That was circulated in the media. The other distinctive thing is she had colored tattoos on her forearms, and that was not very common for a female in 1980. And despite all of the media interest, there were still no inquiries about her. Then in about 2013 or 14, I received a phone call one day from Ventura County DA investigator Steve Rhodes.
We were tasked with investigating the 1980 murder of a young woman whose body was dumped in the parking lot of Westlake High School. And as we worked on that case, we discovered that
the Serta Perfect Sleeper. Get perfect sleep at...
Okay, and this is going to be an ad. 1 second.
a CODIS connection to another murder in Kern County. So we contacted the Sheriff's Department in Kern County and adopted their case, and we ran a parallel investigation.
Since I have to put on the evidence related to the Kern County case anyway, why not just do one trial and save both counties a lot of work? It never really mattered to me that we didn't know their identity. You know, what we could prove absolutely is that they were people. And I think this is just another example of why, regardless of whether or not you know the identity of the victims, they were still victims. Victims of a horrible crime, and they died in a horrible way, all alone, and nobody knew. And those investigators never gave up.
I got a call in 2018 indicating that Wilson Chuzette had been convicted of the murders of both women. And it was really shortly after that, Steve called me and suggested that maybe we should do a genealogy DNA since neither of these women had ever been identified.
I reached out to the Doe Project, who I became familiar with by going online and reviewing missing persons and unidentified victims. Asked them if they would pick up Jane Doe Ventura and attempt to identify her. They agreed.
The DNA Doe Project was founded in 2017. It was incorporated as a 501c3 nonprofit. The mission of the organization is to return the names to the nameless and identify John and Jane Does through using genetic genealogy.
We had a DNA profile, but the genealogy DNA requires a different kind of profile. So I made a request for the crime scene clothing.
Really all I did at that point was assist Dawn with which sample from the victim might have the best DNA to move forward. And we kind of settled on the blouse. And so it's just a series of steps that you take the sample through to get the DNA out of the cloth, out of the blood. And you're really left with just a very small amount of clear liquid in the bottom of a tube that looks like a drop or two of water. And that's where all your DNA is. And that sample is what was sent to the genealogy lab.
And by May of 2019, the lab was able to deliver the data file to our bioinformatics expert, who was able to turn around and upload that information to a website called GEDmatch, which is where we do the majority of our research. When we uploaded, we actually had 0 matches. And by September of 2019, we had a new top match upload and opt-in.
Through their efforts, they had been able to identify her to the Cree Nation in Canada. And they worked it as far as they could, but then it wasn't enough to really move further.
We put an appeal out on Facebook, and we named the location where we thought she came from, hoping that someone would recognize her. 10 days later, we had someone contact DNA Doe Project, and she thought that this was her aunt.
As soon as it said that she had bloodlines, her DNA is traced back to Alberta, Saskatchewan, Manitoba, and the state of Montana, I said, that's my.
Send the gift of money home with.
This sucks. It gets really interesting and then a stupid ad comes in. I'm sorry I'm not talking as much as I usually am. I did notice that for some reason I'm more chatty during the day than I am at night. And another thing is, this is a really interesting story, and I'm really fascinated by like genealogy and DNA and stuff like that, and how it's solving crimes and also finding people that are victims of crimes. So now that the ad is over, let's go ahead and keep watching. Alright, so for anybody that's multitasking and not looking at the screen, it says Violet Sousa had been searching for her aunt nearly 40 years. Her aunt's name was Shirley Ann Sousa.
With Shirley, she was always, like I said, very meticulous, very like a creature of habit. She would send birthday cards and Christmas cards to my grandmother until 79 or 80, the cards quit. And my grandmother told us that something must have happened, that we need to go and look for my aunt. We searched the hospitals, the different bars, we went to the parks, we went to the graveyards. I mean, we did this over a number of years after that. And I did the same in Seattle. Her biological mother made us promise to her that we would keep looking for Shirley and bring her home.
Okay, it says Violet had never stopped looking for Shirley. In 2020, her mom fell ill and Violet was prepared to pause the search for her aunt. Just days later, she saw the Facebook post with the composite sketch of Shirley Sousa. See, I don't believe in coincidences. That's crazy. Let's continue watching.
I can't do this anymore. It was draining. It was draining me emotionally. It was like I just finally let it go. And then all of a sudden it falls right in my lap a few days later.
I just started talking to her about the history and what had happened.
I don't know, like, if whoever's watching, you know, has heard of the law of attraction or like has studied it as I do, but that's supposed to be how it works. You're supposed to want something and work for it, and the second you stop not caring, but like the second you stop paying attention to all your efforts that you're moving towards the thing that is that you want, that's supposed to be when it turns up. So this is crazy to hear that that's how this worked out for them.
Happened, I really felt like that was probably going to be her. But then she went on and said, yeah, she had this thing about clean white shoes. And at that point, I just knew that it probably had to be her.
I uploaded my DNA and matched her DNA with mine.
And we confirmed that she was within the range of an aunt and niece.
It was a multitude of emotions. One, relief that I lived up to a promise I had made. I thought I would go to my grave with that promise. Two, glad that we found her, but very, very sad that we lost her many years ago.
Yeah, Kern County Jane Doe may be one of the first cases of Indigenous peoples being solved through genetic genealogy.
The lesson here, don't ever give up, no matter what's going on. If you got a victim of a crime and that crime's unsolved, never stop solving it. And the fact that we were able to identify Jane Doe Kern County is remarkable, and I'm certainly hopeful that Jane Doe Ventura County gets identified soon.
It was a collaboration of a lot of people.
Our does become like parts of our family while these
Yes.
cases are being worked on. And we feel very close to them and really an obligation to return their name to them because everybody deserves that.
And I agree with that statement. Let's go ahead and keep watching after this ad. Oh, I think this is over.
Cold cases can be solved. Family members never forget, nor should we. During Crime Victims Week, I'm pleased to highlight the identification of Shirley Sousa. Thank you very much.
Wow, that was deep. That was really powerful. I'm really glad that they found her, but I have questions as far as what happened. Did somebody, kill her? What happened there? Hopefully some more information comes out. I'll keep an eye out. If I find anything, I will add it to a future playlist. Let's go ahead and continue on. This next clip is called Hundreds of Women Reported Menstrual Changes After Getting Exposed to Tear Gas in Portland. And this is going to be courtesy of KGW News.
Tear gas and what it does to your body. I want you to think back, all right? Think back to last spring, to last summer, when something abnormal became very normal in Portland. For months, on many nights, protests, demonstrations, riots, they ended in a cloud of tear gas. Portland police used it more than 100 times last year, although they haven't used it since last August. Federal agents still do use it to this day, often outside of the ICE building in the South Waterfront. And often the gas, when tear gas is used, it wafts into neighborhoods with homes and with families. Have you ever wondered how that affected people? The people living in those communities, breathing that in night after night? I did. And Portland researchers did too. They studied what tear gas was doing to people in Portland. All ages, all health conditions, what was it doing to them? Kristen Severance explains that many of the people they found with symptoms never even went to a protest.
Tear gas, or CS gas, was sprayed in downtown Portland, in front of the Justice Center, Union Building, and in neighborhoods for months following the death of George Floyd. Portland police officers used it nearly 100 times from the end of May to July 4th, and then ordered to only use it after declaring a riot. Federal agents used CS gas nearly every night for several weeks last summer and continue to use it at protests in front of the ICE building. Both agencies said they used the gas to disperse crowds or stop violence. Thousands of people in Portland breathed in the gas over the last year, and many of those people never went to a protest, but lived or worked nearby.
Why would you think that a poison meant to blind people, meant to make people's tear ducts have reactive issues, would just be fine after it dissipates?
Liv Vasquez did not attend the protest, but lived in southeast Portland. She said officers used tear gas in her neighborhood and a mile away in downtown. She said breathing in the gas caused changes to her menstrual cycle and an intense pain.
Where I was literally doubling over and feeling like I need to lay down or be in a ball, basically, because I was having such bad cramps. And I had never experienced menstrual pain like this before. And I've had cramps before, but nothing like this. And to have the spotting as well was really concerning to me.
Liv moved 10 miles away and said the cramping and spotting stopped.
And I noticed pretty quickly that I was starting to feel better.
You could tell they used a lot of tear gas down there.
Jen Moondancer said she was also exposed, not at a protest, but by being downtown.
I could definitely smell it in the air outside in the Pearl District and downtown. I'm very familiar with the scent. I went, a gas chamber training in the military a few times.
The Army veteran was going to school 3 days a week in downtown Portland last summer, where the protests often ended in a cloud of tear gas each night.
My cycle would get much heavier. I would bleed profusely. The pain was extreme. And I would get really bad headaches, which was something I didn't really get before.
Jen, who also has some other health issues, ended up getting a hysterectomy. She's feeling better, but wonders why tear gas is still being used on city streets.
It is something that is used during war. It is not a war. So why are they using it?
Because they're assholes. That's why.
Really sad to me.
Researchers at Kaiser Permanente Center for Health Research in Portland heard these same complaints and wanted to study the impacts of tear gas on the general population.
The most research that we have on tear gas is from many years ago and often conducted by the military and mostly on healthy men is the majority of the population.
Britta Torgrimson-Ohario was the lead researcher on the largest tear gas study of its kind. Kaiser surveyed more than 2,000 people of various ages and health conditions about what tear gas had done to them. 2,200 people responded. 94% reported a health impact. More than 1,200 people sought health care after coming in contact with tear gas.
Another key finding, very important finding, was menstrual irregularities that were published. So of people that could potentially menstruate or had a uterus, more than half, 54.5% of those people reported some change. So biggest changes reported were heavy cramping, unusual spotting and bleeding, or increased bleeding.
People also reported feeling these effects days or weeks after breathing it in, which she said goes against the common narrative that tear gas only affects you in that moment.
There were things that didn't start really occurring until a day or two after, even. Severe headaches, gastrointestinal issues for people, brain fog, fatigue, and then of course the reports of menstrual changes.
Torgrimson-Ohario hopes this is the first of many studies to really understand what tear gas can do to the body.
We feel like this report from Portland is really a call to action for all of the scientific community to engage in better understanding what are these chemical compounds that were being used, how are they potentially impacting people's health.
Oregon lawmakers have introduced legislation to restrict tear gas and other riot control munitions. If passed, local and state law enforcement could only use tear gas if physical force is justified.
I mean, this is Portland, where we weren't even salting the roads like 3 or 4 years ago when we had a huge snowstorm because of the environmental impact. So you're worried about the fish and the runoff. How are you not concerned about a poison or what it has on health impacts of the environment and the people living in this environment? Like, this was an assault.
It sounds like they know what they're doing, and it's making me think that if it's affecting women's menstrual cycles, that perhaps down the line that could evolve into like cancer, like getting cysts and things like that. There's already a lot of issues that women have to face without getting tear gas, interrupting their natural menstrual cycles. If you're someone that believes in depopulation, maybe this is one of the ways that they're trying to do that. That's what I think of when I'm hearing what they're saying here in the situation, because I had never even thought about it before. That, obviously it's poison, it's toxic. Of course it's going to affect the body, other than what they say they intend for it to do, and that's for it to, be like mace, where it, keeps you from like seeing good and it burns and all of that. So let's continue watching this clip.
On the city of Portland as a whole, regardless of if you were out protesting, regardless of if you were downtown, if you were in your home like me, you were a victim of this assault.
Kristen Severance, KGW News.
Now, if you've been watching this show for a while, then you know I've been tear gassed. I spent a few nights covering the protests and the riots last summer, and I got gassed by federal agents outside of the Justice Center downtown. I want to show you a tweet, though, that I sent a few hours before that happened, before the gas canisters started flying that night. You see, the gas leaves a powder behind. That's what you see on the lid of that grill in the picture on the left there. I wrote, you can still feel the CS gas from last night. Itches your throat, makes your nose run under your mask. Let me tell you, being in that park, breathing that in, that dust, you don't need to be an expert. You don't need to be a doctor to figure out that the stuff just can't be good for you. That said, the city did still send in some experts once the dust cleared, so to speak, to assess how things went. Now, last summer, Environmental Services, they checked the storm drains, and they found all kind of nasty stuff that you don't want in our rivers. All right, they found elevated levels of barium, of copper, lead, and zinc at the federal courthouse site. And I know what you're thinking. Elevated levels of chemicals can't be great for our rivers, and you are right. But according to BES, we must say that the chemicals can pop up in urban environments, but they were a lot bigger there in those areas than in some control areas surrounding the Justice Center. Now, the good news here, those, quote, elevated chemical readings never did actually reach the Willamette because of some filtration systems we had. The city did, though, they had to clean out 6 storm drains, and they hit the feds with a $20,000 fine because of this. They also installed some filtration systems on storm drains near the Justice Center and the ice building to keep pollutants out of the river. But we still don't know how that gas or that powder impacted the soil or the plants or the animals in those parks that were gassed nightly for weeks. Now, imagine that same story with those same concerns, but instead of a park downtown or a justice center, we're talking about a school with kids, the one right next to the ICE facility. Families there have been pleading for the gas to go, and so far, those pleas have been unanswered. I want to play the first part of a story that our reporter Mike Benner did for us a few weeks ago in mid-April.
Monday was a big day at the Cottonwood School in Portland's South Waterfront. It was the first day of in-person classes in months.
It's still really scary. It's really, really scary.
It's not COVID that parent Kate Sheriff is worried about. It's this. All of this and much more has been found in the school's outdoor play area.
Honestly, it's really heartbreaking to me to think of the contamination that's in that soil.
The Cottonwood School sits right next door to the ICE building, the scene of so many protests over the last year, including this past weekend. Munitions that federal agents use to disperse crowds end up right on the Cottonwood School property. The school's executive director says schools should be chemical weapons-free zones.
Should schools be chemical weapon-free zones? Is that a crazy question? Because still tonight, that school isn't one.
We have an ad, just 1 second. Oops, my bad, you all. Everything switches so fast. Let me see, hopefully, what happened? Oh yeah, here we go. Oh yeah, it went all the way to the beginning. Give me 1 second while I try to find where we left off. I want to say it was here. My mistake.
Should schools be chemical weapon-free zones? Is that a crazy question? Because still tonight, that school isn't one. So, how did we get here? Tear gas was developed as a weapon during World War I to force troops out of the trenches, but it was later banned in warfare under the Geneva Protocol of 1925. Around that same time, the military marketed the gas to police for riot and crowd control purposes. It's been used ever since during demonstrations like labor strikes, Vietnam War protests, and the Civil Rights Movement. Fast forward to May 2020, when Portland police used it during protests in the aftermath of George Floyd's death. In June, the group Don't Shoot PDX sued Portland over the Bureau's use of tear gas. A federal judge ruled in their favor and issued a temporary restraining order on PPB using tear gas. The only exception was if there was a risk to public or police safety. But that order didn't apply to federal police, who continued to gas protesters last summer outside of the federal courthouse. In July, Governor Kate Brown signed a bill banning tear gas, except when police declare a riot. Well, Portland police kept declaring riots and kept using it. So in September, Mayor Ted Wheeler banned the police bureau from using tear gas. Now, state lawmakers are considering a new bill that would ban police from using tear gas unless physical force is also justified. But again, this wouldn't stop federal agents from using tear gas. And that.
Yeah, and when isn't it life or death situation for a cop? Isn't it always that way? Alright, so let's go ahead and continue. Here we have another animal video. It's called Rare Sight, Black Swan Spotted in Santa Barbara Harbor. And that's going to be courtesy of ABC7. Let's take a look after this ad. 1 second. This one's kind of long. I hope everyone's doing good tonight. We should only have a few more videos to look at.
Out this video of black swans in the Santa Barbara Harbor. A tugboat captain caught this rare sight. It's unclear how the swans ended up in these waters. They are all now in the animal rescue team of Solvang.
Oh, they're so beautiful.
They're gorgeous.
Look at those red beaks that they have. Hello, I'm Mark Brown.
They are gorgeous. I kind of wish they would have left them alone, but hopefully they're safe where they are now. Let's go ahead and continue on. We have about 14 clips to watch. The next one is called Suspect in 1984 Murder Takes the Stand, and this is going to be courtesy of WESH 2 News. Let's take a look.
Local man on trial for a decades-old murder takes the stand, testifying on his own behalf. Thomas Gardner is accused of strangling and killing a Navy graduate the day after she graduated from Orlando's Naval Training Center.
Prosecutors say his DNA was found on evidence preserved since the 80s, and that is what led to his 2019 arrest. WESH News' Michelle Meredith is live at the Seminole County Courthouse for us right now, where Gardner just off the stand.
Well, it's very unusual for a defendant to take the stand, but obviously the jury will decide if he helped or hurt his case.
You know who Pamela Kahanis is? I don't really remember her. I tried to look at the picture to try to see if I could recognize her, but I didn't recognize the picture.
Who thinks that if he did recognize the picture that he would say so?
Thomas Gardner is on trial for a murder that happened close to 40 years ago. The victim, 25-year-old Pamela Kahanis, was found strangled to death in a wooded area in Sanford in 1984. At the time, Gardner and Kahanis were in the Navy and both stationed at Orlando's Naval Training Center. Gardner was only recently arrested for the murder after decades-old DNA and new DNA from people checking their heritage became available. Prosecutors say Gardner's DNA matched DNA found on the victim's fingers and underwear, preserved for close to 37 years. Gardner took the stand very confidently, but had odd answers when asked about the DNA.
And certainly we've heard testimony today that your semen was on Pamela Kahanis's panties that she was wearing. Isn't that true?
Yes.
And that your DNA was on or under the fingernails of Pamela Kahanis.
I don't think they said it was under.
In the conjunctive, on, under. You not hear the testimony?
I heard the testimony, yes.
On the fingernails of Pamela Kahanis. Isn't that true?
Now, the jury has gone home for the evening, so this trial will resume tomorrow. Live in Seminole County, Michelle Meredith, WESH 2 News.
He did it. I'm just saying. I always do that, especially like on Law and Order. I can always tell when the suspect is gonna, like, when it's gonna be them. I'm always like, he did it. Like, I'm calling it right now. It was that guy. Yeah, that's kind of how I feel about that case. But as soon as I find an update and once they reach a verdict or whatever, I will be sure to add it to a future playlist. Now, this next clip that we're going to look at is the documentary that we saw. What was it, yesterday? Yeah, technically still yesterday, about the two young men that went to Rome and ended up stabbing a officer of the law over there. I did read an article that included the verdict, but I wanted to show you video of that now that it's posted. This is called Rome Jury Convicts Two Bay Area Men in Slaying of Police Officer, and that's going to be courtesy of NBC Bay Area. And that's going to be after this ad. 1 second.
We are also following breaking news overseas and the impact it's having on 2 families from the Bay Area. At the time of the crime, they were teenagers from Marin County. Now they are 2 young men sentenced to life in prison in Italy for killing a police officer. This is a story been following for nearly 2 years, and Raj joins us now with the verdict and the family's reaction today in court, and family members were there in Italy.
There was a lot to digest here, Janelle. What's happening here, what started out as a summer vacation in Italy a couple of years ago, has turned into a tragedy and now a life sentence. And for many people, this is simply a stunning verdict. Finnegan Lee Elder and Gabriel Natalie Horth have been found guilty of killing a police officer in 2019. As of tonight, it's a life sentence, Italy's harshest penalty. Let's show you what's going on. We just got this video now from Rome. The 2 men who grew up in Mill Valley being walked into court. Finnegan Elder, now 21 years old, and Gabriel Natalie Horth, now 20 years old. Prosecutors say Elder stabbed a plainclothes police officer 11 times, while Natalie Horth hid the knife.
Allora, il Tribunale di Roma, la prima Corte d'Assise, in nome del popolo italiano, visti gli articoli 500.
The Italian judge reading the verdict there after the jury deliberated about 12 hours. Italian law states, now even though Natalie Horth did not stab the police officer, he was an accessory to the crime and can also get life sentence. As the 2 left the courtroom, some dramatic images here. Finnegan Elder's father, who was there traveling to Italy, yelled, "Finnegan, I love you." We also saw the widow and brother of the slain police officer hugging, and emotional, of course, after the verdict. This all started during a summer holiday back in Italy. At the time, the 2 Marin County teenagers say they attempted to buy cocaine. This was the crime scene, July 26th of 2019. They said it was a botched drug deal, and they didn't know the man that they killed was a police officer. Elder and Natalie Horth both were classmates at Tamalpais High School in Mill Valley. Now, the lawyer said that they will appeal this decision. If not, the 2 men are eligible for parole in 21 years.
She looks like she's relaxed.
Okay, so this next clip is a clip that we saw recently, but this one has commentary to it, and it also adds a little more information to the clip that we saw last time. This is called "Woman Sets Her House on Fire, Then Sits to Watch It Burn." And this is going to be courtesy of Inside Edition. Let's take a look.
Like she's relaxing in a lawn chair with a good book. But authorities say she actually just torched her own home, then sat in the chair to watch it go up in flames. The shocking video starts with the woman having an argument on her front porch.
Oh my God, he just threw water at her.
Then another argument with another resident. Next thing you know, the house they all live in is on fire. And there's the accused arsonist relaxing in the lawn chair.
She's sitting there just chilling, watching the house go up in flames.
The fire quickly consumes the house in Elkton, Maryland.
Get out of the house! It's on fire!
A bystander runs to help a resident as she climbs out a window.
Hurry!
Fire crews rush to the scene.
That whole roof just fell.
Avery Hammond shot the video.
I couldn't believe that she was just sitting there like it wasn't happening. She casually went out there, sat in a chair, stated a few obscenities, and watched the fire spread throughout the house.
47-year-old Gail Metwally was taken into custody. She reportedly has mental health issues.
She's sitting there just chilling, watching the house go up in flames.
I don't know. It just seems like not everybody, but a lot of the subjects that we talk about when it comes to the people that do some of the things that they do end up stating that they have mental health. And I just don't agree with that being a reason. People are probably getting away with horrendous crimes all in the name of like, oh, they have mental health. I don't know her. All I learned from her was that she started a fire inside the house. Somebody was in there, could have been killed. I don't know if anybody else was in the house after that, pets or anything like that. I didn't hear any reports of that. And then she sits back in her chair and is hanging out, and then on the mugshot she's like smiling like she's still proud of herself. I mean, I don't know. I don't know any illness that could cause that. Maybe there is and I just don't know about it. But it was just really wild to see her just kicking back on that lawn chair while her house went up in flames. I kind of wish I knew more information if, you know, maybe her husband cheated and she caught him or something like that, but I really doubt they're going to continue telling this woman's business after this headline. The house on fire was probably like the most eventful thing coming out of the story. But let's go ahead and continue on. We have about 10 videos to watch. The next one is called Woman Held Hostage, Beaten and Choked Over a Drug Debt in Corryville, and this is going to be courtesy of Local 12. Let's take a look.
A Corryville woman is accused of holding another woman hostage and beating her over a drug debt. Jessica Whitaker is charged with felonious assault and abduction. Police say they found the victim yesterday at Whitaker's apartment on Jefferson Avenue. She'd been hit several times in the head with a mallet and had marks on her neck from being choked with electrical cords. A friend of the victim told police she was being held hostage because of a drug debt that ranged between $3,500 and $4,000. Whitaker told police that someone else beat the victim.
That was a crazy story.
That a brutal beating.
1 second. So this one kind of started playing itself. Let me go back. It's called Man Accused of Attacking Miami Beach Tourists Arrested, and this is going to be courtesy of NBC6 South Florida. Let's watch.
That a brutal beating on Miami Beach. Tonight, a man is behind bars accused of attacking 2 tourists, and police say it was for no apparent reason. NBC6 investigator Willard Shepard is live in Miami Beach with a look at that surveillance video and who police say is responsible. Willard?
Yeah, Jackie, all this very disturbing, but thanks to an alert Miami-Dade County transit driver, police here on Miami Beach have put this man's picture out there in the public view. This bus driver saw him way down in southwest Miami-Dade County, called police, and now he's in custody. Police say this is 36-year-old Michael Albert, several days ago on South Beach, dancing when the golf cart playing music pulls up. And this afternoon, here's his mugshot. Police say once the golf cart pulled away, he's seen on surveillance video cameras attacking first a man multiple times and then striking the woman who is walking with him. She could be heard screaming. South Beach hotel owner Mitch Novick pulled the video from his surveillance system when he was told about the attack.
It was an unprovoked attack on a, just a regular middle-aged couple, and that particular crime bothered me.
Novick shared the video with detectives.
As you know, the problems on Miami Beach, the whole world knows about it this time.
That doesn't make me feel very safe. I feel like it happens everywhere, so I'm not very scared. We're here to have fun.
Earlier this spring, this vigil was held to honor Christine Engelhardt. She ended up losing her life when visiting from Pennsylvania. Police say she was drugged and raped by 2 men before her body was located in a hotel room. Peter Malenciano is charged with forcing a tourist from New Jersey into prostitution, and he was captured after the woman was able to escape. The videos from South Beach during late March and early April showed the chaos. Hundreds arrested.
The guests who I've accommodated for decades now, I tell them to find alternative vacation destinations until such a time when public safety can be ensured and quality of life.
Yeah, I'm not too sure when public safety can be assured and quality of life. That's like some really wishful thinking. Whenever I've been noticing a lot of these videos popping up on news channels of these random attacks, and I really don't know what to make of them. I know where I live, the news isn't very reliable. If you take a look at the news stations here, they make it look like nothing ever happens, which I know that's not true. I used to have friends that were EMT people, paramedic type people, and they always said that they would see the craziest shit. For some reason, it never ended up on the news. They really try to make it look really nice and safe here. But if I lived in a big city where the news is reporting constantly, he looks mean like that. Hold on. Play a little. That's better. But if I lived in a city where it looked like there was constant random attacks happening, I would definitely be afraid to leave the house. And sometimes that makes me wonder if that's the real motive of promoting these stories, if you will, because they do seem to happen every day, everywhere. Let's continue watching while this finishes.
Police chief and also the mayor here on Miami Beach have been clear throughout the course of this spring, saying that public safety is number one. They're doing all they can to protect tourists and also residents living here. Right now on Ocean Drive, that's all shut down. No vehicular, no cars can get on Ocean Drive. That's one of the things they're trying to do to make sure that things stay safe. Live on South Beach, Willard Shepard, NBC6 News.
Well, thank you very much, Willard Shepard. Let's go ahead and continue. We got about 8 more clips to look at, and this is actually not supposed to be there because I have a whole other playlist for that, because it is a situation that has an update that led to an arrest, but I'll get into that probably tomorrow. Let's go ahead and continue. We have 7 more clips to go, and this is going to be Jeff Bezos backed Blue Origin vows to put first tourist in space by July, and that's going to be courtesy of Good Morning America. And that's going to be after this ad. Just 1 second, please. Ad. Wasting my time. I'm just kidding. Waiting. Okay.
Space tourism. Amazon founder Jeff Bezos has announced that his aerospace company, Blue Origin, will launch its new Shepard rocket on July 20th, and 1 seat is up for auction. Gio Benitez is in Pittsburgh with the story. Good morning, Gio.
Hey, George, good morning. That launch will make history as the first space tourism flight to launch from the U.S., and it sets into motion an entirely new industry.
This morning, the beginning of space tourism is just months away. Blue Origin, created by Amazon founder Jeff Bezos, announcing it will launch its first crew into space on July 20th, with 1 seat going to the highest bidder.
We're auctioning off the first seat to benefit our foundation, Club for the Future, so that future generations can do something extraordinary up there.
Now, we don't know who the other crew members will be, but that 1 civilian makes it the first time any private citizen launches into space from American soil. The flight will last just minutes, enough to get a view of Earth from almost no gravity. Some of the NASA astronauts aboard the International Space Station right now tell me it's a good idea.
This will hopefully open the door for many more people, civilians per se, to be able to come up and experience what we get to experience quite a bit.
And the business of space tourism may soon get crowded. SpaceX is launching a fully civilian crew into space to orbit the Earth in September. Axiom Space launching 3 civilians to the ISS in January. And Richard Branson's Virgin Galactic is hoping to start tourist flights in zero gravity next year.
And I got to tell you, it is not cheap. A seat on Virgin Galactic, that's going to cost about $250,000. Over on SpaceX and Axiom, the seat's going to cost about tens of millions of dollars. And the money raised from that Blue Origin auction, that's actually going to go to a foundation for students, George.
Meantime, Gio, SpaceX just figured out how to land its rocket for the first time.
Yeah, that's right. We're talking about Starship, and I got to tell you, there were 4 massive failures before this, but now they finally landed it. They really nailed it. It was quite a sight, and they hope to use Starship to take people to the moon, to Mars, and beyond, George.
Now that they've nailed that landing,
You know
okay, Gio, thanks very much.
I know what to get you 2 for Christmas.
I'm good.
Can't afford it, but I'm thinking about it.
Did he say that he was trying to get rid of them or what? I was gonna say, like, obviously I can't afford anything like that unless somebody wants to donate that kind of money to me, but even then I wouldn't trust it. I don't know what they're really up to in this situation. There's lots of theories about space. I myself have no idea what's going on. I like the comfort of my own home and things like that. I'm not a risk taker. I'm not one of those adrenaline junkies or anything like that, but good luck to anybody that decides to do something like that. Alright, so let's go ahead and continue. This next one is called CBSN Chicago, a deep dive into ShotSpotter. And this is going to be courtesy of CBS Chicago. And that's going to be after this survey, I suppose.
That's semi-automatic, and then they switch to full.
By now, you may have noticed these sensors. They're deployed over 117 square miles of the city, spanning 12 police districts.
ShotSpotter. It senses gunshots fired in the area.
ShotSpotter uses a series of microphones and sensors to detect gunfire. Officers responded to a ShotSpotter alert near Spalding and Ohio Street, and in recent years has become a crucial tool for the Chicago Police Department.
Because ShotSpotter is so accurate and real time, officers can they arrive to the scene somewhere between 5 and 7 minutes before a 911 call.
The technology has helped law enforcement get victims help sooner, identify witnesses, and collect important evidence. But it's also been the genesis for some dangerous, even tragic encounters.
You heard the train screech, like come to a screech and stop, and it was like, wow.
On a cold December night in 2018, a 26-year-old man fired test shots into the air on the city's south side.
ShotSpotter alert.
But ShotSpotter picked up the sound of the shots, and that's why officers Gary and Marmolejo were dispatched, sparking a chain of events that ended with 2 Chicago police officers being fatally hit by a train that they didn't hear coming.
Yeah, there was about 7 or 8 gunshots fired on the 2300 block of South Sawyer.
ShotSpotter also brought police to Little Village on March 29th.
Hey, come on, these are shots fired by police.
Within 5 minutes of the 2:36 a.m. alert, Officer Eric Stillman shot and killed 13-year-old Adam Toledo. The still frame of Toledo's hands up in the air right before the shot made ripples across the country. So here's the question. While it can be an incredibly useful tool, does ShotSpotter create more opportunities for dangerous and sometimes tragic outcomes?
One important thing about ShotSpotter,
Jonathan Manis of the MacArthur Justice Center says yes.
it's clear that the system creates a sort of powder keg situation.
Manis' team analyzed OEMC ShotSpotter data from July 2019 through April 2021 and found that well over 85% of ShotSpotter-initiated police deployments in Chicago turn up no evidence of any reportable incident or crime, let alone gun crime.
So the police are going into that situation expecting to find somebody who's armed and who has just fired a gun. And if 9 times out of 10, they end up finding nothing, I mean, that creates a pretty dangerous situation for anybody who happens to be in the vicinity.
Manis also notes that the majority of cameras are installed in neighborhoods with largely Black and Latinx populations.
It exacerbates the sort of racialized and aggressive patterns of policing.
The Office of the Cook County Public Defender has also probed ShotSpotter's effectiveness in Chicago, citing a lack of independent testing into the rate of false positives, which is why their lawyers have recently filed legal challenges to the admissibility of ShotSpotter evidence in criminal trials. 2 other studies, one in St. Louis and another in Philadelphia, found that gunshot detection systems do not result in reductions in violent crime. So in your opinion, do you think that the ShotSpotter system is worth $33 million of taxpayer money?
I think it's hard to justify spending $33 million on a tool that sends police hunting for non-existent gunfire almost 9 times out of 10.
But that decision won't be up to researchers. It's in the hands of the Chicago City Council. Alderman Christopher Taliaferro is the chair of the Public Safety Committee.
We can't blame ShotSpotter for what happened to Mr. Toledo. We do need police reform, and we are still.
Yeah, no, you gotta blame the people that were involved. You can't blame ShotSpotter. All that did was pick up gunfire in the vicinity. So no, it's not its fault, obviously.
In the process of reforming our police department.
Taliaferro, a former police officer himself, says the ShotSpotter technology performed as it should have the night that Adam Toledo was killed. It's what happened after that should be scrutinized. Do you believe ShotSpotter is worth taxpayer money?
Facts, lady. That's what I just said.
Money.
I do believe it, because we're saving lives with it. The technology also aids our police department in it being able to attend victims much sooner.
Mayor Lori Lightfoot was in agreement, believing the benefits outweigh the drawbacks highlighted by the MacArthur Justice Center.
Obviously, like with any contract, we need to make sure that we are continually evaluating it to making sure that we're getting the best bang for our buck.
Chicago police declined to make anyone available for an interview on this topic, but in a statement said in part,
Sounds like a cover-up.
ShotSpotter has detected hundreds of shootings that would have otherwise gone unreported. The Chicago Police Department's expansion of ShotSpotter is helping us reduce crime and make our neighborhoods safer. ShotSpotter has a contract with about 100 U.S. cities, including Miami, San Francisco, Las Vegas, and New York. ShotSpotter also declined our request for an on-camera interview, although we did send those top-line findings from the MacArthur Justice Center well in advance of this story running. ShotSpotter spokesperson didn't specifically address those bullet points, but sent us a statement saying in part our technology fills the gap when nationally nearly 80% of gunfire isn't reported to 911, deploying officers to crime in real time, saving lives. In the loop, Megan Hickey, CBS 2 investigators.
Thanks, Megan Hickey. Let's go ahead and continue. We got about 5 clips to watch left. I just want to take the time real quick to thank everybody for being here and also for the support and the donations. It is all greatly appreciated. Let's go ahead and continue. This next clip is called Nepal Closes Its Borders as Coronavirus Crisis Grows in South Asia, and this is going to be courtesy of ABC News.
Right now, you're planning.
And that's going to be after this clip. 1 second. I'll try to be back tomorrow too on the early side of the day, maybe like mid-afternoon. So yeah, I'll schedule a live.
Sees the crisis in India is getting more dire by the day. Cases there are now more than 21 million, with nearly 4,000 deaths in just the last day. Experts saying those numbers could be even higher. Will Reed joins us now with the latest on that situation. Good morning, Will.
Good morning, Robin. India is getting ravaged by COVID, and yesterday the U.S. State Department encouraged U.S. citizens to leave and authorized its non-essential personnel to leave their posts, while neighboring Nepal has banned all international flights until at least May 14th.
The COVID-19 crisis growing in India this morning, the country reporting more than 412,000 cases Thursday, its highest daily record of new cases to date, bringing the case count in the country to over 21 million. Fears that the crisis there could have ripple effects on the entire world. The World Health Organization saying India now accounts for almost half of all COVID cases worldwide. And now neighboring Nepal putting into action a ban on international flights entering and leaving the country. With more than 8,600 cases reported Wednesday, the country, which borders hard-hit India, seeing 57 times more cases now than at this time last month, some blaming travelers coming in from nearby countries. And now questions about Mount Everest, which brings in millions of dollars in tourism to Nepal, and had been closed for the past year because of the pandemic, opened too soon when it opened last month. 2 local hospitals and a mountain guide telling ABC News that people who were on the mountain have tested positive for the virus over the last several weeks, many airlifted to hospitals. The guide telling ABC an average of 2 to 3 people have been testing positive per day. Norwegian climber Erlend Ness says he tested positive on April 15th. He says he was airlifted to a hospital with what was thought to be altitude sickness, which has similar symptoms to COVID, like distressed breathing.
Officials say that in order to climb Everest, hikers must quarantine for a week and obtain a negative COVID test. Now, a spokesperson for the Ministry of Tourism in Nepal says they've seen news reports of cases on the mountain, but have not confirmed those cases themselves. They've been reaching out to local hospitals to learn more.
Yeah, I don't know what to make of that. It's pretty crazy that they're saying like all these deaths are happening due to COVID. And then over here, there's actually people that go to hospitals to see this crisis in action, and nothing is being, evident of that. If anything, it just looks staged. If we all can remember that refrigerated truck with allegedly the bodies in it and all of this. So when I see something like this, it's just really hard to believe because of the information that I've been exposed to from people that were out there trying to, expose what was going on. Then you see this, and it's a bunch of people dying, being diagnosed with COVID, and they're running out of oxygen tanks. I saw a clip, I want to say a week or two ago, and there was a I'm having trouble with words right now. I don't know if it's because it's late or what, but those places where they dump all the trash, it's not coming to me, but there was a bunch of oxygen tanks just thrown away, and the excuse was that they were not the right something, not the right brand, or not the right model or something like that, and they were all being trashed, and it just made me think like maybe they're just not as needed as they say. So I mean, it's beyond me what the truth is. All I know for sure is for myself, I'm not taking a vaccine. If COVID is real, then I'll take my chances. And that's just my opinion. I'm not a doctor, I'm not an expert, that's just what I think. Let's go ahead and continue looking at these clips. We've got 4 more to go. The next one is called True Crime Fakers, Crimes and Chaos from Unbelievable Hoaxes. And this is going to be courtesy of CBS Detroit. And that's going to be after this Kit Kat ad.
This 33-year-old mother, Holly Garcia, this one woman is a one-woman crime wave. She had another GoFundMe campaign, money for her dead son's urn. Not true. Another campaign to get money for her other 4-year-old son. Not true. Who's blind. Another one for money for her unborn child. Not true. Money for a stroller. Not true. I mean, it goes on and on. This one woman.
See, and I hate seeing stories like that because I'm a big supporter and believer in crowdfunding. If somebody needs help, I don't see why the community can't pull their resources together to help somebody out that's in need. But then there's stories like this of people taking advantage, and it's just really disheartening. It really makes you question who you want to support and give your money/energy to. But I will keep an eye out also on scams. That's another type of story that I like to cover: financial crimes, schemes, things like that. So let's go ahead and start watching our last 3 videos of the night. Next is a video called Man Arrested for Selling Fake Vax Cards, and that's going to be courtesy of KYMA.
A California man has been arrested on charges of selling fake COVID-19 vaccination cards. Undercover agents with the State Department of Alcoholic Beverage Control got a complaint that fraudulent cards were being sold at a bar in Clements. The agents said they were able to purchase the fake ID cards on multiple occasions in April. They say the owner of the bar was selling the fake cards. During the arrest, the owner was also found to be in possession of a loaded unregistered firearm, which is a felony. ABC will file disciplinary action against the business, which could mean its liquor license could get suspended or revoked.
That's crazy. If this guy was running out of money for his restaurant or something, he could have just tried calling Bar Rescue or something like that. That's pretty crazy. He put his whole reputation and business on the line over selling some fake shit. Let's keep watching.
Another employee of the business could also be charged.
And he involved someone else. That's wild. Alright, let's go ahead and continue. The next video clip is called Coke County Man Charged with Murder in Oregon Cold Case. So this is another cold case, and this is going to be courtesy of WATE 6 on your side. Let's take a look.
All right, Victoria, thank you very much. An arrest in Cook County is believed to have solved a cold case in Oregon, and the case goes back more than 20 years. Kenneth Gibson was indicted on a murder charge in April by a grand jury in Washington County, Oregon. The indictments are sealed, but a police spokesperson said that the case began as a missing persons report in July of 1999. The victim in this case, Anthony Kennedy, was 22 at the time of his disappearance. Gibson was taken into custody on May 3rd in Cook County Sheriff's Office. He is being held for extradition back to Oregon.
Haha.
Geico's whole...
I said Coke County. He said the other word. But I'm really like, I don't want to say excited, but I guess I'm really pleased to see that a lot of cold cases are being solved with DNA, genealogy, charts, maps, whatever it takes. I really think that the victims need to have some kind of justice, and the families and friends need to have answers as far as to what happened to their loved ones. So I will definitely be continuing to cover cold cases that lead to arrests. Okay, so we're down to our last clip of the day. Again, I'll try to come back tomorrow in the afternoon on the early side. I just want to thank everybody so much for being here and keeping me company and watching me show you the videos that I picked for us to watch. I will try to be back tomorrow, and if not, I will see you maybe at Crowned Empress's chat, or if not, the next day. I guess now technically it is Friday now? Yeah, it's past midnight. So let's watch this last clip. It's called Olympic Boxer Accused of Killing Pregnant Girlfriend, and this is going to be courtesy of Inside Edition.
He was once an Olympic boxer. Now he's behind bars, accused of killing his pregnant girlfriend. 27-year-old Felix Verdejo Sanchez is charged with kidnapping and carjacking, resulting in the death of Keishla Rodriguez Ortiz, according to the Department of Justice. Rodriguez's body was discovered in a lagoon near San Juan, Puerto Rico, 2 days after she was reported missing. Her mother told local media that her daughter was pregnant with Verdejo's child. He is also charged with killing the unborn child. The family is distraught over their loss.
I'm not sure if they're gonna translate, but I'll go ahead and read what the screen says in case they don't. It says, "You can't do that, abusers. My daughter and my grandson were killed. Abusers will pay for this. And all those who are involved, abusers."
Abusadores, me mataron a mi hija y a mi nietecito. Abusadores los dos, van a pagar ellos y todo el que está incluido también por abusadores que son.
Verdejo is reportedly married to another woman with whom he also has a daughter. Verdejo was known as El Diamante, or the Diamond, and competed in the 2012 London Olympics. Reports say Felix Verdejo Sanchez turned himself in the day after Rodriguez's body was found, and he is being held without bond. For Inside Edition Digital, I'm Mara Montalbano.
That's crazy. He threw it all away because he was having an affair, and he got his lady friend, however you want to put it, pregnant, and he killed her and the unborn child. I really feel what the mom was expressing there. That was really sad to see. But thank you very much, Danielle Williams. It's always good to see you. Thank you so much, Adam Brazil, for stopping by, and Nicolette Moore. I hope you all have a really good night. I think, Punisher J Gaming was here earlier too. You all have a good one. I will see you soon. Thank you. Bye.